So Module 1 in the course is all about basic HTML and CSS. Make sure that you read through everything in Module 1 and you do all of those practice assignments, even if they're not graded, because those are going to be the ones that are really going to help you understand the code part. Now, I'm going to create tutorial videos like this one that shows a couple of things that I think enhance what you've already got in the modules to help explain a couple of different things. So, for instance, Module 1, we're going to do some basic HTML, and one of the things that I think you really need to know is that the entire internet is just folders with files in them, basically HTML files and other types of files. So they're just pages. And the thing is, you have to keep them organized. You can't just have them scattered on your desktop and then move them and then rename the file name, because it's all about hyperlinks, and those hyperlinks need to be able to know where a file is and what it's called in order to work. So if you move it or you rename it, it's going to break. So just get in the habit of putting all of your files into project folders, and don't use capitals, spaces, or special characters. So I'm going to call this web design class, and have a folder in there, and I'm going to save everything in there, and I might even save like folders for each module in here, okay? But notice that I didn't do capitals, characters, and for spaces I did hyphens, which is the good standard practice. Okay, so for this one, I just wanted to show you in brackets. I'm going to create a file new, and I need to save that, so I'll do save as. And if you've watched a couple of my previous videos, you need to name this, so I'm going to just call this test.html. And notice I put .html, which usually you don't have to do for documents like Word documents and PowerPoint, whatever. But you do have to do that in code editors, because there's a lot of different types of files that you could create. But because we're creating a website, we're creating HTML pages. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in my web design class folder. And I'll go ahead and hit save, and then it shows where it's located, and now I can start coding. So the other thing I want you to know is that when you're in your code editor, no matter which one you usually want to see the code, and then you also want to see a live version of this. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can double click and find that test.html, and if you did save it as a .html, when you double click it, it should open up in your web browser, and it's blank because we don't have anything on our page. So that's one way you can do it, definitely. And every time you come over here, make a change, save it, come back here, hit refresh, and you should see those changes. Another way that you can do this, I'll go ahead and minimize this, is I can go up to, in brackets, I can go to File and do Live Preview. Live Preview is usually on every code editor. You just have to figure out where it is. Usually it's going to be in the File menu or the View menu. So I'll go ahead and do Live Preview. And it still opens up a browser. And I'm going to usually just do this kind of side-by-side working view. All right, so your first code, I'm just going to type hello. Now when I come over here and hit refresh, nothing happened. And the reason why is because I need to save those changes. So get in the habit of just doing a keyboard shortcut, Control S on a PC, Command S on a Mac. So now when I save, it automatically shows up here. If I do it again and do Command S, it shows it over here. Now the thing is, with coding, if I were to come down here a couple of lines and say, this is a new paragraph, and then look over here, oops, I forgot again to save it. See how even though we had a bunch of spaces in here, it doesn't matter. If I come in here and put a bunch of spaces, save it, and come over here, you see just like one space instead of 4 or 5. And that's because the browser doesn't know how to interpret these. It doesn't know what each of these should look like. And that's where code comes in. Code tells it what each thing is. So let's say this was a heading, and you'll learn about the different headings. So this is a heading 1, and you memorize these things with code. These are called tags, and you wrap your text with those tags. If you open it, you must close it. And you can tell this is open because it doesn't have a forward slash, and this is closed because it does have a forward slash. So you're saying, I want to start my first heading or the main heading for the page. Here's the heading, and then I want to end that heading. What that's going to do is the browser automatically has a style built into it that says anything that has the H1 wrapped around it should be bold, big, have a gap underneath, and it should look some kind of way. With the paragraph, all paragraphs, you just have to wrap with the P tag. So notice that sometimes you should code first before you type your stuff, because then you have to do this kind of cut and paste action that's happening here. If I save this and then come over here, it doesn't really seem like it changed anything. But now, if I put another paragraph, second paragraph, and save it, see how it has that gap? And that's a good thing because paragraphs should have a gap so we know the difference between one paragraph and another. If I put them side by side, nothing changes because this is what we call block level element. So even though it doesn't look like it breaks right here, because you put a new paragraph, it does break, and so it gets to be on its own line by itself. Okay? So basically, this is what we call an element. An element is where we have tags surrounding, the content, and you have an opening and a closing. There are some tags out there that don't have an opening and closing because they're kind of like a standalone tag, and you'll go over that as well. Like image tags are like that. A break tag is like that. So you'll see some of those tags as well. So this is basically all it is to coding, is knowing, you memorize these tags and what they do, and then you just wrap them around your content. Let's say I wanted to make this bold. I can go ahead and put the bold tag. So there's B for bold. So it tries to keep it really simple and easier to understand than other forms of code. So now when I come over, again, always with the saving, now you can see that new paragraph is bold. And that's because I said, I want to start bold here. I want to bold only this content because I've closed it here. So there's that one element. Okay. So now paragraphs, like I said, and headings are what we call block level elements. So they automatically stack. And then there are things like this one. This is called an inline element. And that's when you actually have it inside of a block. And notice that it's inside of the two P tags. So it kind of it's kind of like bookends. So you wouldn't put this closing B at the end of this, because you need to, if you open something, you must close it. And then when this paragraph is done, you might have more information in this paragraph. And you want it all to be contained in there, but you don't want more information to be bold. So that's why you have to end this before you end the closing paragraph, the containing paragraph. So again, there you go. And you can see that change there. And probably needs a little space and fix the O, but okay. So the last thing that you need to be aware of is that there is common stuff that you have to have in every HTML page. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself some space. And that common stuff, if we come back into your class, you're going to find this page in Module 1 called Code Open a Basic HTML Structure. So I can just go ahead and copy this so we can see a little bit larger and put it in here. So every HTML page needs this information. So get used to typing this, or like I did, just copy and paste it. And I'm going to fix this so you can see it real quick. Oh, it just needs to be a little bit wider. Okay. So this is a document type. It declares that this is an HTML document, which helps the browser know how it should present it or how it should run it, basically. And this is saying that the HTML language is English. So if we were coding in a different country with a different language other than English, this would be different. And then notice that all of a sudden we indent the head and then the body, and the body should actually be indented like this because the head and the body are considered equal. Think of the head as kind of all the backstage stuff that people don't usually see. They only see the title, but there's going to be a ton of stuff in the head for every website that you create. But this is the stuff that has to be there. But it's kind of like, think of it, the head on your body. You got a lot of stuff happening in your brain, but nobody really sees it. So this is not stuff that the end user sees. Now, the stuff they do see should be all in this body tag. And just like a human, you can see a human's body. So that's the stuff that your actual end user sees. And then we close the HTML. We opened it here. Oops. We opened it here and we close it here because, again, with the majority of tags, if you open it, you must close it. So the head also includes a meta character set. So you just have to remember what this is, or copy and paste it, or look it up, because I still can't even remember this and I've done a billion websites. So you can just make sure that's there. And then this title tag is basically, it would appear here. So if I went and saved this, you can see basic HTML5 data structure. So that's showing up in the title tag. So that's the only thing in the head that people actually really see. Now, the body, again, you see this hello world. This stuff should actually be in that body tag, and you can't have more than one H1 on a page, and you'll learn those rules as well. But now, again, if we hit save, there you go. So notice that we can't see any of that stuff we added, but this is proper now. This is going to show up correctly in your browsers. This is going to validate, which means it's going to, pass the test, so to speak, and make sure that this is a really well done website. And if your stuff is really well done, then it's going to have a better chance to show up in search engine results, which is really important for websites that you build. So hopefully that helps you with an introduction to HTML and coding and working with your code editor. And now it's just a matter of, okay, learning each one of these tags and what they do. What's the difference between a heading 1 and a heading 2? You can have multiple heading 2s on a page, but you can only have one heading 1. Why is that? Well, that's why you have to read through all that practice information and your e-textbook and all that good stuff. So now it's just a matter of memorizing all of these different tags, what they do, and then actually trying them out in here. It's not going to do any harm to try them out in here and then test it and see what they actually do.